This week on Monster Model Review, we have comic book creator and sculptor Terry Beatty. Taped a couple years back, Terry, best known for his work on Batman's animated comic book series and Miss Tree, walks us through his monster upbringings to kit sculptor and producer. Here is part one of Terry's interview.
You know, as a kid, I was hooked on monsters and comic books real early. We had the local chiller theater hosted by Dr. Igor, who would say, "How you are, kids?" and then show us monster movies. And then during the week, he was Jungle Jay, showing Bomba and Jungle Jim and Tarzan movies, too, in the afternoon. And I was crazy for that stuff. And at age 5 or 6 or so, in the hobby shop with my brothers, and I see the Aurora monster kits. And I'm begging my parents for the Mummy model. I want the Mummy for Christmas. And Christmas is coming, and there's a box under the tree, and it's the right shape, and you pick it up, and it rattles, and that's the Mummy. That's the Mummy. I'm getting the Mummy, okay? Christmas comes around, and I open it up, and it's Superman. Now, I like Superman. I'm quite fond of Superman, but at the time I wanted the Mummy, and I was pretty bummed. And with it was a letter from Santa Claus explaining that I just wasn't old enough for the monsters, because apparently I'd woken up with a nightmare saying the Mummy's going to get me. But I don't remember that, but my parents claim this part was true. So I got Superman instead of the Mummy for Christmas. But that still was pretty cool. And I vividly remember, even as a little kid, putting together the Superman kit and painting the S insignia and getting within the lines. I remember being very proud of myself over that. I guess I had good eye-hand coordination even then, which served me well as a comic book inker. But I eventually got the Mummy, and I got all the other monsters and the superheroes, and on and on up through the Banana Splits buggy, which can explain why they made that as a model kit. And I love that stuff. But at some point, you start to grow up and you start thinking that it's kid stuff, and for the most part, they ended up as BB gun targets, which is, a very mature thing to do with your possessions as a kid, to try to show that you're grown up, of course. Well, years and years and years go by, and I don't think about model kits at all, because I'm working at being a cartoonist, and I've got my life going and other things happening. I'm well into my comic book career, and I'm at a comic book show in Cincinnati, Ohio. It's 99% comic book stuff, except there's this guy there named Mike Parks, who's got these sculptures he's done out of this stuff called Super Sculpey. And he's got a buddy of his along who has a bunch of old Aurora model kit build-ups. And there's some other dealer actually had, as I recall, had the Aurora Marvel kits in box, mint condition on the shelf, and wanting $300 a piece for them, which I didn't buy them. But I'm looking at all this stuff, and I'm looking at these model kits, and I'm remembering the fact that I used to really love those things, and the emotional response I'm having to them is telling me I still love those model kits. And so I went home with the Aurora build-ups. And I went home, and I restored the Aurora models, and there was Wolfman and Dracula and Frankenstein. And I ordered some Super Sculpey and started playing with that a little, and thinking, I did a little sculpting back when I was in high school, just played with it a little, haven't done any since. Maybe I should work on that a bit. And then I heard, and then some magazines, there were these magazines, there's Model Toy Collector, some of the stuff came out, and I heard about this event called Wonderfest. And I think they'd had 2 or 3 by the time I got to one. But by the time I got to my first Wonderfest, I was just a stone-cold model kit freak again. And suddenly all the shelves in my house were full of, whatever vintage build-up Auroras I could find to restore, and the new vinyl kits that were coming out. Some of them great, some of them not so, but still they were figure kits and they were fun. And seeing people produce garage kits and resin kits really got me thinking that above and beyond building existing kits, that creating my own was really what I wanted to do.
You can see all the cool projects Terry's working on at terrybeatty.blogspot.com, and you can contact him at terrybeatty@mac.com for more information on his kits. Look for part 2 in an upcoming episode, and if you want to see more videos and more Monster Model Review, you can check us out at monstermodelreview.com, and thanks again for watching.